Hey, welcome back. It's Alex here, and I am so glad you pressed play today, because this episode is going to change the way you listen to English forever. I mean that. Today we are talking about something that native speakers do every single day without even thinking about it, but that most learners never really notice. We are talking about certainty. How do people show that they are sure about something? How do you know, just from listening, that a speaker is 100% confident versus just guessing versus only half believing what they are saying? Because here is the truth. English speakers have a whole toolbox of words and expressions for this. And once you can hear them, once your ear catches them automatically, your listening comprehension jumps up to a whole new level. You stop getting confused about whether someone is sure or just hoping. You stop missing the emotional weight behind a sentence. And honestly, you start sounding more natural yourself, because you will pick up these same expressions and start using them without even trying. Think about the last time you watched an English movie, or listened to a native speaker chatting casually, and you understood every single word, but you still felt a little lost about what the person actually meant. Maybe you weren't sure if they were joking or serious. Maybe you weren't sure if they truly believed what they were saying, or if they were just being polite. That confusion very often comes down to missing these small but powerful certainty signals, the tiny words and phrases that carry so much emotional weight in English. Today we're going to fix that. One story, one example, one practice moment at a time. So grab your coffee, your tea, whatever you're drinking right now, get comfortable, and just listen. You don't need a pen. You don't need to write anything down. Just relax and let the story carry you. Because today, I'm going to tell you about a woman named Marina, and a missing shipment, and a very stressful Monday morning that taught her, and is going to teach you too, exactly how confident English speakers sound when they are absolutely sure about something. Let me set the scene for you. Marina worked at a shipping and logistics company in a mid-sized city, the kind of place with gray office buildings and a coffee machine that never quite worked properly. She had been there for almost 3 years, and her job was to track international shipments, containers full of everything from furniture to electronics to, on one particular week, a very large and very expensive order of medical equipment that was supposed to arrive at a hospital by Friday. It was Monday morning, and Marina walked into the office already tired, because her train had been delayed, and she was holding her coffee like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her colleague, a calm and slightly sarcastic man named Tobias, was already at his desk, staring at his screen with a frown. "Morning," Marina said, dropping her bag on her chair. "Is it a good morning? I'm not sure yet," Tobias replied, still looking at the screen. Marina sat down and turned on her computer. "What's wrong?" "The Whitmore shipment," he said. "The one with the hospital equipment. It's supposed to be in the port by now. It isn't. Now, right here, right at the start of this story, I want you to notice something." Tobias said, "I'm not sure yet." That is not a confident sentence. That is the opposite of certainty. He is telling Marina honestly that he does not know if today is going to be good or bad. This is important, because throughout this whole story, you are going to hear the difference between sentences like this one, sentences full of doubt, and sentences that are full of confidence. And by the end, you will hear that difference instantly. the way a native speaker does. Marina felt her stomach tighten a little. "Okay," she said slowly. "Let's not panic. Let me check the tracking system." She opened the software, typed in the shipment number, and waited. The little loading circle spun for what felt like forever. Finally, the screen showed a status. "In transit, last updated 4 days ago." "That's not good," Tobias muttered. "No," Marina agreed. "That's definitely not good." "There it is. Did you catch it? That's definitely not good." Definitely. This is one of the most common words English speakers use to show certainty. When Marina says definitely, she is not guessing. She is not saying maybe or probably. She is saying, with full confidence, that this situation is bad, no question about it. In English, when you want to sound sure about something, definitely is one of your best friends. You can use it almost anywhere. "I'm definitely coming to the party." "She's definitely the best candidate." "This is definitely the wrong address." It slides into a sentence easily, and it instantly tells the listener, "I am not guessing here. I know this. Let's keep going with the story, because things are about to get more complicated for Marina." She picked up her phone and called the shipping company's local office. After being on hold for what felt like an eternity, with tinny music playing in her ear, a man finally answered. "Hello, this is Franco speaking. How can I help you?" "Hi, Franco. This is Marina from Whitmore Logistics. I'm calling about shipment W4471, the medical equipment container. Our tracking shows it hasn't moved in 4 days. Can you check the status for me?" There was a pause, then some typing. "Let me see. Okay, I've got it here. Yes, I can confirm that the container is currently held at customs in Rotterdam." "Held at customs? Since when?" "According to this, since last Thursday." Marina closed her eyes for a second. "Okay. Do you know why it's being held?" "I'm afraid I don't have that information right now," Franco said. "But I can tell you with certainty that customs holds like this are usually resolved within a few days." Now pause with me here for a moment, because Franco just used a really useful phrase. "I can tell you with certainty." This is a slightly more formal way of saying, "I am completely sure." When someone says, "I can tell you with certainty," they want you to know that what follows is not a guess, not an opinion, but something they genuinely know to be true, or at least something they strongly believe based on solid experience. It's the kind of phrase you might hear from a doctor, a lawyer, a manager, someone speaking in a professional situation where they want to sound both confident and credible. Marina thanked Franco and hung up the phone. She turned to Tobias. "It's stuck at customs in Rotterdam." "Since Thursday?" Tobias asked, raising his eyebrows. "Since Thursday," Marina confirmed. "That's a problem. The hospital needs that equipment by Friday for a scheduled installation. If it's still in customs by Wednesday, we're going to miss the deadline." Marina rubbed her temples. "I know. Let me call the hospital and give them an update. I don't want them finding out from someone else." She dialed the number for the hospital's procurement department, and after a short wait, a woman named Ms. Okafor picked up. Ms. Okafor was the head of purchasing at the hospital, a woman known, according to office gossip, for being extremely direct and not very patient with delays. Ms. Okafor speaking. "Hi, this is Marina calling from Whitmore Logistics, regarding your equipment shipment." "Ah, yes. Is everything on schedule?" Marina took a breath. "I want to be honest with you. There's a delay. The container is currently held at customs in Rotterdam. There was a short silence on the line. How long has it been held? Since last Thursday. And when do you expect it to clear customs? Marina glanced at Tobias, who shrugged. This was the tricky part. She didn't actually know for certain when the container would clear customs, but she also didn't want to sound weak or unreliable. So listen carefully to what she said next, because this is a perfect example of how English speakers manage uncertainty and confidence at the same time. I can't guarantee an exact date, Marina said, but based on what our customs contact told me, these kinds of holds are typically cleared within 2 to 3 business days. So I'm fairly confident it will be released by Wednesday at the latest. Did you hear that? I can't guarantee an exact date. This means she is not 100% sure. She cannot promise. But then she says, I'm fairly confident it will be released by Wednesday. Fairly confident. This phrase sits right in the middle between total certainty and total doubt. It's not, I'm sure. It's not, I have no idea. It's somewhere in between, and it tells the listener, I believe this is likely true, but I want to be honest that there's still some uncertainty. This is such a useful skill in English, being able to show the right level of confidence for the situation. If Marina had said, I'm 100% certain it will arrive Wednesday, and then it didn't arrive, she would look unreliable. But by saying, fairly confident, she protects herself while still sounding professional and reassuring. Ms. Okafor was quiet for a second, then said, All right. I appreciate your honesty. Please keep me updated, especially if anything changes. Absolutely. I will call you the moment I hear anything new. Absolutely is another one of those wonderful little certainty words. When someone asks you to do something and you reply, absolutely, you are saying yes with full enthusiasm and full confidence. It's stronger than just saying okay or sure. Absolutely means, without any doubt at all, yes, I will do this. You'll hear it constantly in English conversations. Can you help me with this? Absolutely. Are you coming tonight? Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it. After the call ended, Marina let out a long breath and looked at Tobias. Okay, we have some time, but not much. I think we need to call our customs broker directly and find out exactly what's holding things up. Agreed, Tobias said. I'll pull up his contact information. While Tobias searched for the number, Marina started making notes, trying to organize her thoughts. This is actually a great moment for us to pause the story for a second, because I want to give you a chance to practice. I'm going to say a few sentences, and I want you to repeat them out loud after me, copying the rhythm and the confidence in my voice. Ready? Here we go. I'm definitely sure about this. Now, you try it. Say it out loud, even if you're on a bus, even if you're in your kitchen, even if people around you think you're a little strange for talking to your headphones. Say it with confidence, like you truly mean it. Let's do one more. There's no doubt in my mind. Say that one too. Feel how your voice probably goes a little stronger, a little more solid on the word doubt. That's not an accident. When English speakers want to sound certain, they often put extra stress, extra emphasis on the key word in the sentence. In "there's no doubt in my mind," the word doubt usually gets that little push of energy, because it's the most important word for understanding the meaning. Okay, let's get back to Marina and Tobias, because their Monday is about to get even more interesting. Tobias found the number for their customs broker, a man named Ricardo, who had helped them out of tricky situations before. Marina called him immediately. "Ricardo! Hi, it's Marina from Whitmore. I have an urgent situation with shipment W4471. "Marina, good to hear from you, though I'm guessing this isn't a social call," Ricardo said with a small laugh. "You're right about that. Our container's been held at Rotterdam Customs since Thursday. Do you have any way of finding out what's going on?" "Give me a minute. Let me check my system." "Okay, I see it here. Looks like there's a documentation issue. Something about the commercial invoice not matching the packing list exactly. Is that something that can be fixed quickly?" "Honestly, in my experience, yes. This kind of mismatch is usually a simple paperwork correction. I'd say there's a very good chance we can resolve this by tomorrow, as long as we get the corrected documents from your supplier today." Notice how Ricardo says, "I'd say there's a very good chance." This is another way of expressing strong confidence, without saying the word sure or certain directly. A very good chance means the speaker believes something is quite likely to happen. It's optimistic, it's confident, but it still leaves a small window open, because Ricardo is an experienced professional, and he knows better than to make promises he can't keep. Marina felt a small wave of relief. "Okay, that's actually good news. I'll call our supplier right now and get those documents sent over." "Perfect. And Marina, don't worry too much. I've dealt with dozens of cases exactly like this one. It almost always works out fine." "Almost always" is interesting too, isn't it? It shows high confidence, but it's honest about the fact that there is a small exception sometimes. English speakers use phrases like this constantly, because real life is rarely 100% certain. And good communicators know how to express the right amount of confidence for the situation, without either overpromising or sounding weak and unsure. Marina hung up and immediately called their supplier, a company based overseas that manufactured the medical equipment. The call connected to a man named Devrim, who managed their export documentation. "Devrim, hi, it's Marina from Whitmore. We've got a customs issue in Rotterdam, something about a mismatch between the invoice and the packing list." "Oh no, let me look into that right away," Devrim said. There was some clicking and shuffling sounds in the background. "Ah, I see the problem. There was a typo in the quantity field. It says 250 units on the invoice, but the packing list says 215. That's definitely the issue. Can you fix that today?" "Yes, without question. I'll correct it right now and send you the updated invoice within the hour. You have my word." "Without question" and "you have my word" are both strong, confident expressions. "Without question" means there is absolutely no doubt. It's a fact. It's certain. "You have my word" is a way of making a promise, telling someone that you are so confident in what you're saying that you're putting your personal reputation behind it. When someone says, "You have my word," they are essentially saying, "You can trust me completely on this. I guarantee it." Marina thanked Devrim and hung up, feeling a little lighter than before. She turned to Tobias. "Okay, the documents are getting fixed. Ricardo thinks we can clear customs by tomorrow." "That's a relief," Tobias said. "Do you think we'll still make the Friday deadline?" Marina thought for a moment before answering. "I think so, yes. If customs clears tomorrow, that gives us Wednesday and Thursday for the final leg of transport. It'll be tight, but I believe it's doable. I think so, and I believe it's doable are softer than definitely or without question. But they are still confident. They show that Marina has thought about the situation carefully and formed a strong opinion, even though she can't promise with total certainty. This is actually a really important skill in English. Choosing the right level of confidence for what you're saying. If you're 100% sure of something, phrases like definitely, certainly, without a doubt, or I guarantee it work well. If you're pretty confident but want to leave a little room for things to change, phrases like I believe, I'm fairly sure, I think so, or I'd say are perfect. Let's take another short break from the story here, because I want to walk you through a mental picture that might help all of this stick in your memory. Imagine confidence in English like a dial, like the volume dial on an old radio. All the way at the bottom, at 0, you have complete uncertainty. Things like, I have no idea, I'm not sure at all, who knows, it could go either way. As you turn the dial up a little, you get to soft guesses. I think, I guess, probably, it might be. Turn it up more, and you reach solid confidence. I believe, I'm fairly sure, I'd say. There's a good chance. And when you turn the dial all the way up to maximum volume, you reach total certainty. Definitely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. I guarantee it. I'm completely sure. There's no question. Every time you listen to English, whether it's a podcast, a movie, a conversation with a friend, try to imagine that dial in your head. Ask yourself, where is this speaker's confidence level right now? Are they at 0, unsure, and guessing? Are they somewhere in the middle, fairly confident, but leaving room for doubt? Or are they all the way at the top, completely certain? Once you start doing this automatically, your listening comprehension becomes so much deeper, because you're not just understanding the words, you're understanding the emotional and mental state behind them. There's actually one more layer to this dial idea that I think is really worth mentioning, and that's how the speed and rhythm of speech often changes along with the confidence level. When someone is down near the bottom of the dial, genuinely unsure, you'll often notice more pauses in their speech, little sounds like or and sometimes their sentences trail off without a clear, strong ending. Something like, I mean, it could be, I guess, but I'm really not sure. The voice sort of fades away at the end, doesn't it? Compare that to someone near the top of the dial, fully confident. Their sentences tend to be shorter, more direct, delivered with a clear, steady rhythm, and they usually finish strongly, without trailing off. It's Wednesday, I checked this morning. That's final. Short, clean, complete. No hesitation, no filler sounds, just clear, solid information delivered with a confident rhythm. This is honestly one of the most useful listening skills you can develop, because it means you don't even need to catch every single word perfectly in order to understand how sure a speaker feels. Sometimes, just from the rhythm alone, from the pauses, from the pace, from whether a sentence trails off or lands firmly, you can get a strong sense of someone's confidence level, even before your brain has fully processed the individual words. Try this the next time you're watching an English film or listening to an interview. Close your eyes for a moment, just listen to the rhythm and the music of the sentence, and see if you can guess how confident the speaker feels, purely from the sound, before you even think carefully about the actual words being used. All right, Let's go back to Marina, because the story isn't over yet, and there's actually a twist coming. It was now almost noon. Marina had grabbed a quick sandwich at her desk, still keeping one eye on her email, waiting for the corrected invoice from Devrim. Around 1 o'clock, the email arrived. She opened it, checked the numbers, and forwarded it immediately to Ricardo. "Got it," Ricardo texted back a few minutes later. "Submitting to customs now. I'll update you as soon as I hear something." Marina leaned back in her chair and looked over at Tobias. "Now we wait." "You know what's strange," Tobias said, "is that this whole thing started because of one wrong number. 250 instead of 215. One little typo, and it holds up an entire shipment of hospital equipment. That's the logistics business for you," Marina said with a tired smile. "Everything has to be exact. There's no room for guessing." A few hours passed. The office slowly grew quieter as people left for meetings or worked silently at their desks. Around 3:30, Marina's phone rang. It was Ricardo. "Marina, good news," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "Customs approved the corrected documents. The container is being released as we speak." Marina actually pumped her fist in the air, causing Tobias to look over with a raised eyebrow. "That's fantastic, Ricardo. Thank you so much." "No problem at all. I'm certain the container will be moving again by this evening. You should see updated tracking information within a few hours." "I'm certain." Simple, direct, powerful. When you want maximum confidence in English, "I'm certain" is one of the strongest, cleanest ways to say it. It's short, it's clear, and it leaves no space for doubt. Compare it to something like, "I think it's probably going to move tonight." Same basic idea, but completely different feeling. One sounds hesitant, careful, unsure. The other sounds solid, strong, reliable. Marina relayed the good news to Tobias, and then, feeling much better than she had that morning, she called Ms. Okafor at the hospital to give her the update. "Ms. Okafor, hi, it's Marina again. I wanted to update you. The customs issue has been resolved. The container is moving again as of this afternoon." "Oh, that is very good news. Do you still think Friday is realistic?" Marina paused for just a second, thinking it through carefully. "Yes, I'm confident we'll make the Friday deadline now. The transport company already has the truck scheduled for pickup once the container reaches the port exit, and based on the current timeline, everything should arrive at your facility by Thursday afternoon, giving you a buffer before Friday." "That's excellent. Thank you for staying on top of this, Marina. I really appreciate the clear updates." "Of course. I'll send you a confirmation email once it's officially on the truck, just so you have it in writing, too." Notice how, throughout this whole final exchange, Marina's confidence has completely shifted compared to earlier in the day. In the morning, she was saying things like, "I can't guarantee an exact date," and "I'm fairly confident." Now, in the afternoon, with new information in hand, she's saying, "Yes, I'm confident," and speaking with a much more solid, settled tone. This is actually really realistic, because confidence in real conversations isn't fixed. It changes as people get more information, as situations become clearer. A good English listener pays attention not just to the words at one single moment, but to how a speaker's confidence shifts and moves throughout a conversation or a story. Let's take one more short pause here for some listening and repeating practice, because I think this is a great moment to lock in some of these expressions before we continue with the story. I'm going to read out 5 short sentences, each one showing a different level of certainty, and I want you to repeat each one after me, trying to match the emotion and confidence in my voice. First one, low confidence. I'm not really sure about that. Second one, a bit more confidence. I think that's probably right. Third one, solid confidence. I'm fairly confident that's true. Fourth one, strong confidence. I'm quite sure about this. Fifth one, maximum confidence. I have absolutely no doubt. Great job. Seriously. Even if no one can hear you except your headphones, that kind of practice, saying the words out loud, feeling the rhythm and the stress patterns in your mouth, that's what actually builds real fluency. Reading silently is good, but speaking out loud is what trains your mouth and your ear to work together. Now, back to Marina, because there's one more little piece of this story that I think you'll really enjoy, because it brings everything full circle. It was now almost 5 in the evening. Most of the office had gone home already. Marina was finishing up some paperwork when Tobias walked over to her desk, holding his phone. "Just got a text from Ricardo," he said. "Tracking's been updated. The container cleared the port, and it's officially on the road." Marina smiled. A real, genuine smile. The first one all day. Finally. What a day. "You handled that really well, by the way," Tobias said. "This morning you looked like you were about to have a heart attack, and by the afternoon you sounded completely calm on that call with the hospital." Marina laughed. "I definitely wasn't calm on the inside. But I think staying calm on the outside and being honest about what I did and didn't know, that's what made the difference. I didn't pretend to know things I wasn't sure about, but when I finally had solid information, I made sure to sound confident about it." "That's actually a good lesson," Tobias said, grabbing his jacket. "Sometimes people think being confident means always sounding 100% sure, even when you're not. But real confidence is knowing the difference and being honest about which one you're feeling." Marina nodded. "Exactly. All right, I'm heading home too. See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow. And Marina, good work today." "Thanks, Tobias. Couldn't have done it without you either." Now, you might think the story ends there, with Marina walking out of the office feeling relieved. But actually, there's a little more to tell you, because Wednesday brought one more small test of everyone's confidence, and I think it's worth sharing with you, because it gives us a few more really useful expressions before we wrap things up completely. Wednesday morning arrived, gray and a little rainy, and Marina got to the office early, wanting to check the tracking system before anything else. The container had cleared the port on Monday night, exactly as Ricardo had promised, and by Tuesday afternoon it had been loaded onto a truck for the final leg of the journey to the hospital. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. But when Marina opened her laptop and refreshed the tracking page, she noticed something strange. The truck's location hadn't updated since 6 o'clock the previous evening. "That's odd," she said quietly to herself. Tobias walked in a few minutes later, shaking rain off his umbrella. "Morning. Everything on track?" "I'm not 100% sure, actually," Marina said, frowning at her screen. "The truck's tracking hasn't updated since last night. It should have moved by now." Maybe it's just a technical glitch with the GPS, Tobias suggested, hanging up his coat. Maybe. Let me call the transport company and find out for certain. Marina dialed the number for the trucking company and was connected to a dispatcher named Yusuf, a friendly-sounding man with a slight accent she couldn't quite place. Yusuf speaking, dispatch office. Hi, Yusuf. This is Marina from Whitmore Logistics. I'm calling about truck route T2289, carrying shipment W4471. The tracking hasn't updated since last night, and I wanted to check on the status. One moment, let me pull that up. Ah, yes, I see it here. There was a mechanical issue with the truck last night. Nothing serious, a problem with one of the tires, but the driver had to stop at a service station. Marina's chest tightened a little. Is the truck moving again now? I can't confirm that yet, Yusuf admitted. I'm waiting for the driver to check in. But historically, tire issues like this are usually fixed within a couple of hours, so I'd expect an update very soon. I can't confirm that yet is a completely honest way of expressing genuine uncertainty. Yusuf isn't guessing wildly, and he isn't pretending to know something he doesn't. He's being straightforward, telling Marina clearly that he simply doesn't have the information yet. This is actually just as important a skill as expressing confidence. Knowing how to say, I'm not sure yet, or I can't confirm that, honestly, without sounding weak or unprofessional, is a real strength in English communication. Nobody expects you to have every answer immediately, and pretending otherwise usually backfires. Okay, Marina said, trying to stay calm. Can you call me back the moment you have an update? This shipment has a hard deadline for Friday. Absolutely. I'll call you the second I hear from the driver. You have my word on that. Marina thanked him and hung up, then relayed the situation to Tobias, who was already frowning again. A flat tire, he said, shaking his head. Of all the things. I know, Marina sighed, but Yusuf sounded confident it would be resolved quickly. Let's just wait for his call before we start worrying too much. Easier said than done, Tobias muttered, but he went back to his own work anyway. About 40 minutes later, Marina's phone rang. It was Yusuf. Marina, good news. The tire's been replaced and the truck's back on the road. The driver says he's making good time and expects to reach the regional depot by early afternoon. That's a relief. Do you think this delay is going to push back the final delivery? Honestly, I don't think so, Yusuf said. The driver built in some buffer time originally, so even with this morning's delay, I'm fairly confident we're still on track for a Thursday delivery, which still gives you a day of margin before Friday. I'm fairly confident, again, that lovely middle-level expression, strong but honest, appearing once more in a completely natural, realistic context. Notice how, throughout this whole story, this particular phrase keeps coming back, again and again, in different voices, from different characters. That's not an accident in how English actually works. I'm fairly confident truly is one of the most commonly used expressions among professionals, because real life so rarely allows for complete, total certainty. Weather changes, traffic happens, machines break down, documents have typos. Being fairly confident, rather than absolutely certain, is often simply the most honest, most accurate way to describe how professionals genuinely feel about the future. Marina updated Tobias, and then, following her new habit of over-communicating rather than under-communicating, she sent a short, calm email to Ms. Okafor at the hospital, letting her know about the minor delay, but reassuring her that the timeline still looked solid for a Thursday delivery. Ms. Okafor replied within the hour, "Thank you for the update, Marina. I trust your judgment on this. Please keep me posted if anything changes." "I trust your judgment" is a lovely phrase, too, worth mentioning here, even though it's coming from Ms. Okafor rather than being about certainty exactly. It shows that, through all of Marina's honest, clear communication throughout this week, she had actually built real trust with the hospital. That's often what happens when you communicate honestly about your level of certainty, rather than either pretending to know everything or sounding endlessly nervous and unsure. People start to trust you because they know that when you do say you're confident about something, you actually mean it. The rest of Wednesday passed relatively quietly. The truck reached the regional depot in the early afternoon, right on schedule, and then continued toward the hospital's city. By the time Marina left the office that evening, the tracking system showed the truck was less than 4 hours away from its final stop, expected to arrive sometime Thursday morning. Thursday came, and this time, Marina walked into the office feeling something she hadn't felt much of that week: genuine calm. She checked the tracking system first thing, and there it was, the little map showing the truck's icon sitting right at the hospital's loading dock. "It's here," she said out loud, mostly to herself, but Tobias heard her from his desk. "The truck?" "It's at the hospital. It arrived about 20 minutes ago." "See, I told you it would work out," Tobias said, though Marina distinctly remembered him being just as worried as she was on Monday. "You did not tell me that," she laughed. "You said, and I quote, 'Is it a good morning?' I'm not sure yet." Tobias grinned. "Well, I'm certain now. It's a good morning." There's that shift again, isn't it? From uncertainty at the beginning of the week, "I'm not sure yet," to full, solid confidence by the end. "I'm certain now." I love pointing this out to you because it perfectly captures something really true about real English conversations. People's confidence changes constantly, moment to moment, day to day, based on new information, based on how situations resolve themselves. Learning to track those shifts as a listener, learning to hear the difference between someone who is nervous and unsure versus someone who has become settled and certain. That's a genuinely advanced listening skill, and you're building it right now, just by following this story closely. Marina called Ms. Okafor one final time that afternoon, this time simply to confirm that everything had gone according to plan. "Ms. Okafor, hi, it's Marina. I wanted to let you know the shipment arrived safely at your loading dock this morning, right on schedule." "Wonderful news. I can confirm our receiving team has already begun the unloading process. Everything looks to be in order." "That's fantastic to hear. Thank you for your patience this week, especially with that customs delay at the start." "Not at all. You handled it professionally from start to finish, and I never once felt like I was left in the dark about what was happening. That matters a great deal to us here." "I really appreciate you saying that." "Well, I mean it sincerely. We'll definitely be working with Whitmore again on future orders. We'll definitely be working with you again." What a lovely way to end the story, don't you think? That word "definitely" showing up one more time, this time not describing a problem, like it did at the very beginning of the week, but describing something genuinely good. a strong, confident commitment to future business. It's a nice little reminder that the same certainty expressions we use to describe worries and problems are exactly the same expressions we use to describe good news and positive outcomes. The word itself, definitely, doesn't carry positive or negative meaning on its own. It simply carries strength, certainty, confidence, and it's the surrounding words that tell us whether that confidence is about something good or something bad. Marina hung up the phone, leaned back in her chair, and allowed herself a proper, satisfied smile. Tobias glanced over. "Good call?" "Really good call," she said. "Shipment delivered, hospitals happy, and apparently we've got more business coming our way." "Not bad for a week that started with, 'Is it a good mornin'? I'm not sure yet,'" Tobias said, and Marina laughed properly for the first time in days. And that's where we'll leave Marina and Tobias for today, walking out of the office into the evening, with a shipment of hospital equipment safely delivered, a stressful week finally coming to a close, and a whole new collection of certainty expressions now living somewhere in your memory, ready for you to use. Before we move fully into the wrap-up, let's actually collect a few more expressions from this second half of the story, because there were some genuinely great ones I don't want you to miss. We heard, "I can't confirm that yet," an honest, professional way to express real uncertainty without sounding weak. We heard, "I'd expect an update very soon," a softer, hopeful kind of confidence based on past experience. We heard, "I trust your judgment," which, while not exactly a certainty phrase itself, shows what happens when your communication earns real trust from other people. And we heard, right at the very end, that same word from the beginning, definitely, used this time to describe something wonderful rather than something worrying, showing just how flexible and useful this single word really is. I also want to draw your attention to something a little more subtle, something about the emotional journey underneath all this language. At the start of the week, when Tobias said, "I'm not sure yet," his voice, if you imagine it, probably carried a little tension, a little worry. By the end of the week, when he said, "I'm certain now," that same voice probably sounded relaxed, light, even a little playful. This is exactly what I mean when I talk about listening for emotion alongside language. The words themselves, "not sure" versus "certain," already tell you a lot. But the feeling behind those words, the tension or the relief, the worry or the confidence, that's an entire extra layer of meaning that skilled listeners pick up on almost automatically. And the wonderful thing is, the more English you listen to, stories like this one, conversations, films, podcasts, the more naturally your brain starts picking up on that emotional layer too, without you even having to think about it consciously. Let's do one more round of practice before we move to the final wrap-up, because I think a bit more repetition here is going to really help these patterns settle into your memory for good. I'm going to give you 6 short exchanges. In each one, I'll play both people, and I want you to notice, and then repeat, the certainty expression in the response. First exchange. Question: "Is the meeting definitely happening tomorrow?" Answer: "Yes, it's definitely happening. I confirmed it this morning." Second exchange. Question: "Are you sure this is the correct file?" Answer: "I'm positive. I checked it twice." Third exchange. Question: "Do you think she'll say yes?" Answer: "I'd say there's a good chance. but I honestly can't guarantee it. Fourth exchange. Question. Will the flight be on time? Answer. I can't confirm that yet, but I'll let you know the moment I hear anything. Fifth exchange. Question. Is this the right way to the station? Answer. Absolutely. I've walked this route 100 times. Sixth exchange. Question. Are you certain about the numbers in this report? Answer. Without a doubt. I triple-checked every figure myself. Great work. I really hope you said each one of those out loud, even quietly, even under your breath. Every single time you physically produce these sounds with your own mouth, you're building muscle memory, real physical familiarity with the rhythm and the shape of these expressions. That kind of practice genuinely does more for your fluency than passively reading a list of phrases ever could. I also want to take a moment to mention a few more certainty expressions that didn't come up directly in Marina's story, but that you'll absolutely encounter in everyday English conversations, and that fit perfectly into that confidence style we talked about earlier. There's clearly, as in clearly this isn't working, which suggests something is so obvious that it barely needs explaining. There's obviously, used in a very similar way, as in, obviously, we need to fix this before Friday. There's surely, which is interesting because it often expresses confidence mixed with just a touch of surprise or expectation, as in, surely you're joking, or surely they've finished by now. There's no doubt about it, a slightly more casual cousin of without a doubt. There's I'd bet anything, a fun, informal way of expressing very strong confidence, almost like a friendly wager, as in, I'd bet anything it's going to rain later. And there's mark my words, an old-fashioned but still commonly used phrase that basically means, remember what I'm telling you right now, because I'm completely confident it's going to turn out to be true. Try saying a few of those out loud, too. Clearly, this isn't working. Obviously, we need to fix this. Surely you're joking. No doubt about it. I'd bet anything it's going to rain. Mark my words. Notice, once again, how your voice naturally wants to add a little extra strength, a little extra push, right on the key certainty word in each sentence. That's not something you need to force. Once you understand the meaning deeply, your natural intonation will usually follow the meaning automatically. Let me give you one more little scene, a short one this time, because I think it really helps to see these expressions used in a completely different context, outside of the office, outside of shipping and logistics, just to prove to you how universal this language really is. This time, imagine a totally different setting. Picture a small kitchen, late in the evening, warm yellow light, the smell of something cooking on the stove. A woman named Beatriz is cooking dinner for her brother, Andres, who has just arrived from out of town for a short visit. Something smells amazing, Andres said, walking in and dropping his bag by the door. It's the recipe Mom used to make, Beatriz said, stirring a pot. I think I finally got it right this time. You think, or you know? Andres teased, leaning against the counter. Beatriz laughed. Okay, fine. I'm pretty confident I got it right. I followed her handwritten recipe card exactly, and I tasted it twice already. High praise coming from you. You usually say things like, it's probably fine, and then it turns out amazing anyway. Well, this time I'm actually sure, Beatriz said, tasting a spoonful once more. Yeah, that's definitely it. That's exactly how Mom used to make it. Andres came over and tasted a small spoonful himself. his eyebrows lifting immediately. Okay, wow, you're right. That is definitely it. I'm getting emotional over soup. This is ridiculous. Told you, Beatrice said, smiling. I was fairly confident before, but now, tasting it next to you, I'm completely certain. Isn't that a lovely little moment? Notice how, even in something as simple and warm as two siblings cooking dinner together, this exact same pattern of language shows up. Beatrice moves from, I think I finally got it right, a fairly soft, uncertain phrase, to I'm pretty confident, a stronger middle-level phrase, and finally to I'm completely certain. Full maximum confidence. Once she has real proof. Her brother's genuine reaction, right there in front of her. This is exactly the same emotional and linguistic journey Marina went through with her shipment, just wrapped in a completely different, much cozier story. And that's really the whole point I want you to understand today. This language of certainty, it isn't something that only appears in business meetings or professional phone calls. It's everywhere. It's in kitchens, in living rooms, in text messages between friends, in arguments, in celebrations. Once you learn to hear it, you'll start noticing it constantly in almost every English conversation you come across. Let's do a slightly different kind of practice now. Something a little more like a game, because I think it'll help these ideas settle in even more naturally. I'm going to describe a short situation, and I want you to think, in your own head, about how confident you would honestly feel, and then choose, out loud, an expression that matches that feeling. There's no single correct answer here, because this is really about connecting the feeling to the language, not about memorizing one fixed response. Situation 1. You studied very hard for an exam, you feel great about it, and a friend asks if you think you passed. How confident do you feel, and what would you say? Maybe something like, I'm pretty confident I passed. I studied really hard. Or, if you feel even more sure, I'm certain I passed. That exam was actually easier than I expected. Situation 2. Someone asks if it's going to be sunny tomorrow, but you haven't checked the weather forecast at all. How confident could you honestly be? Probably not very. Maybe something like, honestly, I have no idea. Or, I couldn't tell you. I haven't checked. Situation 3. Your best friend asks if you'll come to their birthday party next month, and nothing could possibly stop you from going. How confident would you sound? Probably maximum confidence. Something like, absolutely, I wouldn't miss it for anything. Or, 100%, I'll be there. Do you see how this works? The language you choose should always genuinely match how sure you actually feel. And here's a really important tip, one that I think gets missed a lot in traditional English classes. Don't just memorize a list of certainty phrases and try to sprinkle them randomly into your sentences. Instead, practice connecting the feeling first. Ask yourself honestly, how sure am I about this, really? And then let that genuine feeling guide you toward the right expression. When you do this consistently, your English starts to sound so much more natural, so much more like a real person speaking their real thoughts, rather than someone reciting phrases from a textbook. I also want to briefly mention something about listening for certainty in faster, more natural speech, because everything we've practiced today has been at a fairly clear, steady pace. But real native speakers, especially in casual conversation, often speak more quickly, and certainty expressions can sometimes blend together with surrounding words. For example, "I'm gonna be honest with you" often gets said quickly as one smooth phrase, almost like a single word. And it's actually a very common way to introduce a confident, honest statement, especially before saying something the listener might not want to hear. Something like, "I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think we're going to make the deadline." Or the phrase, "no way," which can express strong disbelief or strong certainty depending on context, as in, "no way that's true," meaning, "I don't believe that at all," or "there's no way I'm missing this," meaning, "I am completely certain I will be there. Nothing could stop me." As you continue watching movies, listening to podcasts, having conversations with English speakers, keep your ears open for these certainty expressions showing up in fast, natural speech. At first, you might only catch them when people speak slowly and clearly, like in this episode. But gradually, as your ear trains itself, you'll start catching them even in quick, casual, everyday conversations. And that's honestly one of the clearest signs that your listening skills are becoming genuinely advanced. Now, before we wrap up completely, I want to bring together everything we just heard, because I want you to really walk away from this episode with practical tools you can use starting today. Throughout Marina's story, we heard a whole range of expressions for showing certainty, and I want to quickly go back through some of the most useful ones with you, so they really stick in your memory. At the highest level of confidence, we heard things like definitely, as in, that's definitely not good, and without a doubt, and without question, as in, yes, without question. We heard, I'm certain, short and powerful, and I guarantee, and you have my word, which is a lovely way of making a personal promise. We also heard, I have absolutely no doubt, which practically shouts confidence. At a slightly softer, but still strong level, we heard things like, I'm confident, as in, I'm confident we'll make the deadline, and I'm fairly confident, which adds just a touch of humility, while still sounding reliable. We heard, I can tell you with certainty, a more formal, professional way of expressing sureness. And we heard, I'd say there's a very good chance, which is optimistic and confident without making an absolute promise. And then, at the more careful, thoughtful level, still confident but leaving space for change, we heard things like, I believe, I think so, I'd say, and almost always, all of which show that the speaker has a strong opinion, even if they're not claiming total, perfect certainty. Here's something I really want you to take away from today's episode. Confidence in English isn't just about vocabulary. It's also about how you say things. Did you notice throughout the story how the confident sentences often had stronger stress on certain words? Words like definitely, certain, guarantee, absolutely. These words usually get extra emphasis, a little push of energy from the speaker's voice. Your intonation goes up slightly, your volume might increase just a touch, and the rhythm of your sentence becomes more solid, more deliberate. Compare that to uncertain sentences, where the voice often sounds softer, sometimes rises at the end like a question, even when it isn't one, and the pace can be a little slower, a little more hesitant. I also want to talk for a moment about something that trips up a lot of learners, and that's the difference between sounding certain and sounding arrogant. This is actually a really delicate balance in English, and it's worth spending a little time on. If you say something like, I'm definitely right about this, in the middle of a disagreement with a colleague or a friend. It can sometimes come across as a bit harsh, a bit forceful, depending on your tone and the situation. Native speakers often soften strong certainty with small extra words, little cushions, so the confidence doesn't sound like arrogance. For example, instead of just saying, "I'm right," someone might say, "I'm pretty sure I'm right, but let me double-check just in case." Or, "I'm fairly confident, though I'm always open to being wrong." Even Marina, in our story, did this beautifully. She never said things like, "I know exactly what's happening," when she genuinely didn't. She reserved her strongest certainty language for moments when she truly had solid information, and she used softer, more careful language when she was still uncertain. That balance, that honesty, is actually a big part of what makes someone sound not just confident, but genuinely trustworthy in English. Here's another small but useful detail. Notice how often certainty expressions in our story were followed by a reason or some evidence. Ricardo didn't just say, "I'm confident it'll be fixed." He said, "I'm confident it'll be fixed, because I've dealt with dozens of cases exactly like this one." Devrim didn't just say, "Yes," without question. He said, "Yes, without question. I'll correct it right now and send you the updated invoice within the hour." In English, strong certainty statements are almost always more convincing and, honestly, more natural sounding when they come with a small piece of supporting evidence attached. So as you start practicing these expressions yourself, try to get into the habit of adding a short reason afterward. Not, "I'm sure," full stop, but, "I'm sure because I checked it myself," or, "I'm sure because I've seen this happen before." This one small habit will make your English sound noticeably more fluent and more convincing almost immediately. I want to give you one more little practice moment before we finish, because I think repetition really is the secret to making these patterns automatic. I'm going to give you a short list of situations, and I want you to imagine you are the speaker, responding with full confidence. Ready? Imagine your friend asks you, "Are you sure this is the right address?" And you answer, with full confidence, "Yes, I'm absolutely sure. This is definitely the place." Now imagine your boss asks, "Will the report be ready by Friday?" And you answer, "Yes, without question. I guarantee it'll be on your desk by Friday morning." Now imagine a friend asks, "Do you think it's going to rain later?" And this time, you're not fully certain, so you answer with a middle level of confidence. "I think so, yeah. The sky looks pretty dark, so I'd say there's a good chance." Did you notice how naturally your voice probably shifted between those three answers? The first two were strong, solid, confident. The third one was a little softer, a little more thoughtful, because that's genuinely a situation where total certainty isn't realistic. Nobody can be 100% sure about the weather. And that's exactly the point. Good English speakers match their level of confidence to the actual situation. They don't pretend to be sure about things they're not sure about. And they don't sound weak or hesitant about things they genuinely know to be true. I also want to mention something Marina said near the end of the story, because I think it's honestly one of the most important lessons buried in this whole episode. She said that real confidence isn't about always sounding 100% certain. It's about being honest with yourself and with other people about what you actually know, and being able to shift your tone depending on the situation. This applies to language learning too, by the way. You don't have to sound perfectly confident about every single word or grammar rule in English. Nobody expects that. Not even native speakers expect that from themselves. What matters is being able to communicate clearly and knowing how to express your actual level of certainty, whether that's high, medium, or low. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pay attention to how you speak in your own language, in your native language, whenever you're expressing certainty or doubt. Notice the words you naturally use, and then start looking for the English equivalents. Maybe start small. Just pick 3 expressions from today's episode. Maybe definitely. I'm fairly confident. And I think so. And try to use each one at least once this week in a real conversation, or even just talking to yourself while you're cooking dinner or walking to work. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is comfort. The more comfortable you get using these expressions naturally, the faster your fluency is going to grow. One last thought before we move toward the practical homework for this week. Think back to the very beginning of this episode, when Tobias said, "Is it a good morning? I'm not sure yet." At that point in the story, neither of us, you or me, had any idea how the week would end. That uncertainty was completely honest and completely real. And then think about the very last line of dialogue in the story, Miss Iokafor saying, "We'll definitely be working with you again." That's a huge shift from total uncertainty to total confidence. And it happened gradually, step by step, phone call by phone call, exactly the way real life actually works. Nobody moves instantly from doubt to certainty. It happens in stages, through information, through evidence, through experience. And your English learning journey is exactly the same. Right now, maybe you feel unsure about using expressions like "without a doubt" or "I'm fairly confident" in a real conversation. That's completely normal, and it's exactly where Marina was on Monday morning. But with practice, with repetition, with actually trying these phrases out loud in real situations, you'll move along that same journey, from uncertain to confident, just like she did. I also want to encourage you to go back and listen to this episode a second time, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a few days. The first time you listen, your brain is mostly focused on understanding the story and following what's happening to Marina and Tobias. But the second time, once you already know the story, your brain has extra space to notice the language itself, the certainty expressions, the stress patterns, the little details in tone and rhythm. A lot of our regular listeners tell us that their biggest breakthroughs came from listening to the same episode 2 or even 3 times, not because the content is difficult, but because repetition genuinely trains your ear in a way that listening just once never can. Before I let you go, I want to remind you that if you're enjoying these episodes, if you're finding real value in improving your listening this way, please take just a few seconds to subscribe to English in Fluency. It genuinely helps us keep making these episodes, and it means our stories and lessons reach more people just like you, people who are working hard in their own time to build real confidence in English. And if you have a moment, drop a comment below and let us know how it went. Did you catch the certainty expressions before I explained them? Did you try repeating the practice sentences out loud? What's one situation this week where you could use a phrase like, "I'm fairly confident," or "without a doubt"? I read every comment, and honestly, hearing from you, Hearing about your own progress and your own stories is one of my favorite parts of doing this show. And really think about that confidence dial one more time, right now, before you go back to your day. Picture it clearly in your mind. A simple line from 0 to maximum, from complete doubt all the way to total certainty. With all those useful words and phrases we practiced today, sitting at different points along that line. Carry that picture with you this week. You might be surprised how often it comes in handy, whether you're listening to English or speaking it yourself. One more thing before we go. If you know someone else who's learning English, a friend, a classmate, a colleague, someone who might really benefit from an episode like this one, please think about sharing it with them. Learning a language can sometimes feel a little lonely, especially when you're doing most of your practice alone, listening to podcasts, watching videos, reading articles. But when you share what you're learning with someone else, it doesn't just help them, it actually helps you too. Because explaining something to another person is one of the best ways to make sure you really understand it yourself. So that's it for today's episode of English in Fluency. We followed Marina through a stressful Monday, from a moment of doubt and worry, all the way to a moment of real, solid confidence. And along the way, we picked up a whole collection of natural, useful expressions for showing certainty in English. Remember that dial we talked about, the confidence dial, sliding from complete uncertainty all the way up to total, unquestionable certainty. Try to keep that image in your mind this week as you listen to English, whether it's in a movie, a conversation, or another episode of this podcast. Ask yourself, where is this speaker's confidence level right now? And little by little, without even realizing it, you'll start using these same patterns yourself, naturally, comfortably, and with real, genuine confidence. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate you spending this time with me, wherever you are in the world, whatever your day looks like. Take care of yourself. Keep practicing a little bit every day, and I will see you in the next episode. This has been Alex for English in Fluency. Bye for now.